Ladies and gentlemen, let me begin with a simple truth. Life doesn't hand out exemptions. No one gets through this journey untouched by pain, loss, rejection, or disappointment. But here's what separates the extraordinary from the average: the way we carry ourselves in the face of adversity. Now, I'm not saying ignore your pain. I'm not saying deny your struggles. What I am saying is learn to act as if nothing hurts you. Why? Because that's when you begin to master yourself. And when you master yourself, the world bends differently in your presence. You see, success is not for the emotionally fragile. The world is watching. Your colleagues, your friends, your competitors. And they're taking notes. The question is, what do they see? A person who breaks every time things get rough, or a person who moves forward with grace, even with a storm inside? Let me remind you, strength is not about never feeling weak. It's about showing up, even when you do. Your composure is your power. Your poise becomes your message. And your ability to act unshaken, even if you're hurting, becomes your silent vote for the life you deserve. Now, some people say, but Jim, I don't want to be fake. And I tell them, no, you're not being fake, you're being focused. You're not ignoring the pain. You're choosing not to be defined by it. You're choosing progress over pity. So the next time you feel like breaking down, remember this. Stand up straighter. Speak a little clearer. Smile, not because life is perfect, but because you're practicing leadership. Let the world see a person who cannot be defeated even when they've been knocked down. That's who people follow. That's who people remember. That's who becomes great. Learn to act as if nothing hurts you, and watch how your strength inspires others to rise. Thank you. The power of emotional discipline is one of the most underrated traits in the pursuit of success. In a world that constantly challenges you, throws curveballs your way, and tests your patience, your ability to regulate your emotional responses becomes the ultimate weapon. Life will hurt you. That's a guarantee. People will disappoint you. Circumstances will break your heart. And at times your dreams may look more like burdens. But how you handle those moments, how you choose to present yourself to the world in the face of pain, defines the trajectory of your life. Emotional discipline is not about pretending you don't feel. It's not about burying your emotions deep down and walking around like a robot. No. Emotional discipline is about acknowledging your emotions, understanding them, and then choosing your reaction based on wisdom, not impulse. Most people react emotionally to everything, every insult, every criticism, every inconvenience. And because they do, they stay stuck in cycles. But those who rise above, those who lead, who influence, who create lasting success, they are the ones who feel the same emotions, but don't display them recklessly. Acting as if nothing hurts you doesn't mean you're invincible. It means you're in control. And there's a difference. See, when you're ruled by emotion, you're easily manipulated. Someone says something that stings, and you're thrown off for days. A client disrespects you and you spiral into self-doubt. A plan fails and suddenly you question your purpose. This kind of emotional volatility costs energy, time, and credibility. The emotionally disciplined person, on the other hand, experiences the same triggers, but they choose how to respond. They absorb the hit, recalibrate, and keep moving forward. That's strength. There's a phrase I've always believed in: feel it, but don't feed it. That's emotional discipline. Feel the frustration, but don't feed it with overreaction. Feel the pain of rejection, but don't feed it by lashing out or withdrawing from life. Because every time you respond with restraint, every time you stay composed when it would be easy to explode or collapse, you build something powerful inside you. You build self-respect. And self-respect is what allows you to walk into rooms where everyone's louder, flashier, or more aggressive and still own the space. with nothing but your presence. People often confuse emotional discipline with coldness, but it's not about being cold. It's about being clear. And when your emotions run wild, your judgment becomes cloudy. Decisions are made in haste. Words are spoken in anger. Bridges are burned. But when you've trained yourself to stay calm under pressure, your decisions become clearer, more strategic, and ultimately more effective. That's how leaders operate. They may be bleeding inside, but on the outside they're composed, focused, and deliberate. Let me tell you something else. Emotional discipline earns respect. People trust those who remain stable in unstable moments. Whether in business, relationships, or personal growth, others are drawn to those who don't crack under pressure. They become the anchors in the storm, not because they don't feel the waves, but because they've learned how to sail through them without panic. That's leadership. That's power. Now, emotional discipline doesn't happen overnight. It's a skill. And like any skill, it takes practice. It begins with awareness. When you feel triggered, pause. Don't speak immediately. Don't act instantly. Breathe. Ask yourself, what's the wisest response here? Not the easiest, not the most satisfying, but the wisest. That single question can change the entire outcome of a situation. Practice quiet strength. Learn to sit with discomfort without needing to broadcast it. Learn to smile even when you're challenged, not to fake your reality, but to affirm your resilience. Because the truth is, the world is not obligated to treat you fairly. Challenges will come. People will misjudge you. Plans will fall apart. But none of that can defeat you unless you allow it to take over your emotional state. When you learn to act as if nothing hurts you, you're not denying reality. You're just choosing to prioritize your peace over your pain. And that's not weakness. That's wisdom. That's emotional discipline. And once you master it, there's no situation you can't walk through with grace, power, and focus. Strength is a decision, not a feeling. Most people wait to feel strong before they take action, before they face adversity, before they rise up and lead. But real strength doesn't begin with a feeling. It begins with a choice. The choice to keep going when it's easier to quit. The choice to stand tall when your knees are shaking. The choice to look calm when everything in you wants to break down. That's the kind of strength that separates people who talk about success from those who actually achieve it. You see, too many people think strength is something that just shows up one day, like an emotional gift from the universe. But strength isn't gifted, it's forged. It's built in silence. It's created every time you do the hard thing, even when no one's watching. Every time you choose discipline over comfort. Every time you push forward through doubt. Every time you wake up and show up when everything in you says stay down. You're making that decision to be strong. Not because you feel like it, but because you've made a commitment to who you're becoming. The problem is we live in a time where feelings are often given too much power. If someone doesn't feel motivated, they don't take action. If someone doesn't feel ready, they wait. If someone doesn't feel strong, they fall apart. What if, instead of waiting to feel strong, you acted strong? What if you decided, no matter what you're feeling, that today you would walk with courage, speak with clarity, and move forward with conviction? That's the essence of discipline, doing what must be done, regardless of emotion. And the truth is, the strongest people you know, those who inspire you, lead you, challenge you, are not strong because they always felt like it. They're strong because they kept choosing strength, especially in the moments when it was hard to find. That decision, repeated again and again, becomes a habit. That habit becomes identity, and that identity becomes the foundation of a powerful life. Think about it. Anyone can appear strong when things are going well, when the business is booming, when the relationships are healthy, when the path is clear. It doesn't take much to feel confident. But what happens when things fall apart? When the income drops, when the betrayal happens, when the plan fails? That's when your true strength is revealed, and in those moments, the only thing that matters is the decision you make. Will you retreat, complain, blame, and collapse? Or will you pause, breathe, and choose to rise, even when it hurts? Let me tell you this. There is no greatness without adversity, and there is no overcoming adversity without the decision to be strong when you don't feel like it. Every legend you admire, every leader you respect, has walked through seasons of uncertainty. And what got them through was not perfect circumstances or unshakable confidence. It was a decision to keep going, a decision to carry themselves with dignity, a decision to be strong when it would have been easier to crumble. You'll never truly know how strong you are until being strong is your only option. And in that moment, you'll learn something priceless. Strength was never about not hurting. It was about hurting, but moving anyway. It was about standing tall when everything in you was falling apart. It was about being the calm in the chaos, not because you felt calm, but because you chose to be. So make that decision today. Don't wait for strength to arrive. Step into it. Don't wait to feel ready. Act ready. Don't wait for the perfect moment. Create it. Because the person you're becoming depends on the decisions you make right now. And if you can consistently choose strength, no matter the circumstance, you'll become unstoppable. Strength is a decision, not a feeling. Decide wisely and decide daily. That's how you build a life that can withstand anything. Pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional. This truth has the power to reshape how you approach every hardship in your life. There's no avoiding pain. It's part of being human. You will face rejection. You will encounter loss. You will experience moments where everything you worked for seems to fall apart. That's not negativity, it's reality. But while pain knocks on everyone's door, what you do with that pain determines the kind of life you live. You cannot always control what happens to you, but you can always control how you respond. Pain is a signal. It tells you that something matters, that something is shifting, that something inside you is alive. But suffering, that deep, lingering torment that keeps you stuck, is not the same as pain. Suffering is what happens when you hold on to the pain, replay it, feed it, identify with it, and make it part of your identity. Pain is the cut. Suffering is you refusing to let it heal. And when people don't understand this difference, they get trapped. They start to think that because they're hurting, they're broken. But hurting is not the same as being broken. In fact, some of the strongest, most focused, most impactful people in the world have walked through incredible pain. The difference is, they didn't settle into their suffering. They used their pain as fuel. Every painful experience carries two potential outcomes. It can define you, or it can refine you. When it defines you, you begin to see yourself through the lens of what went wrong. You carry the story of betrayal, failure, or loss into every new season. But when pain refines you, you extract wisdom from it. You allow it to shape you into someone wiser, stronger, more resilient. That's the choice. It's not about denying the hurt. It's about deciding what role that hurt will play in your future. Will it chain you down, or will it build you up? Some people walk through life emotionally bruised, using their pain as a badge of honor. They let everyone know how hard it's been, how unfair life has treated them, how wounded they are. And while it's human to seek empathy, staying in that place for too long only deepens the suffering. There is a moment where the story has to shift, where the pain that once weighed you down now becomes the reason you rise. That moment only comes when you choose to stop suffering and start growing. There's a quiet kind of strength in someone who has been hurt yet still chooses to smile, not because they're pretending everything is fine, but because they've learned they don't have to suffer endlessly. They've felt the pain, learned the lesson, and moved forward. That's maturity. That's emotional intelligence. That's what separates the people who thrive from those who just survive. You have to be willing to feel the pain without becoming it. One of the most powerful things you can do is to learn to say, yes, this hurt me, but it will not hold me. That mindset is liberating. It reminds you that the pain you felt was real, but so is your power. It gives you permission to stop replaying what happened and start rewriting what comes next. It allows you to reclaim your energy, your joy, and your vision. Pain is a teacher, but like any good teacher, it's not meant to stay with you forever. It comes to instruct, to challenge, to awaken. But once the lesson is learned, it's your responsibility to move forward. Staying in suffering becomes a choice at that point. And while the choice to rise is difficult, it's where transformation lives. It's where you discover strength you never knew you had. The people who become unstoppable in life are not the ones who avoid pain. They're the ones who learn how to walk through it without letting it harden them. They cry when they need to, but they don't stay down. They grieve, but they don't give up. They carry scars, not as signs of weakness, but as proof that healing is possible. And when they show up in the world, they bring power, not because their life has been perfect, but because they chose to overcome. Pain is inevitable. You can't outrun it. But suffering, that's your decision. And the moment you realize that, you regain your power. So let the pain come. Let it teach you. Let it shape you. But then, let it go. Because the life ahead of you is far too valuable to be wasted in chains you've chosen to keep. Choose freedom. Choose growth. Choose to rise. Confidence is built in silence. It's not loud, it's not showy, and it's not always visible to others in its early stages. Real confidence is not something you declare to the world. It's something you develop quietly, brick by brick, through consistent actions, personal wins, and private battles that no one else sees. In today's world, where so many people try to display confidence through flashy posts, big talk, or superficial status, it's important to understand the deeper truth. The strongest confidence is often invisible until it's tested. Think about where true confidence comes from. It doesn't come from applause. It doesn't come from people constantly telling you you're great. It comes from doing the work, from facing your fears, from proving to yourself that you can handle what life throws at you. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, every time you push through when you don't feel like it, every time you learn from failure instead of letting it define you, you're stacking layers of internal trust. That's what confidence is. It's self-trust built over time. A lot of people try to appear confident because they think that's what success requires. But appearance alone is not confidence. It's often insecurity in disguise. There's a massive difference between someone who acts confident and someone who is confident. The person who acts confident needs attention. The person who is confident doesn't need validation. They already know who they are. And that kind of knowing doesn't happen overnight. It's earned, often in the quiet hours when no one's watching. Confidence built in silence is powerful because it's real. It doesn't need applause to function. It doesn't collapse when criticized. It doesn't need to prove itself every 5 minutes. Why? Because it's rooted in experience. It's the result of showing up again and again, even when it was hard. It's the product of discipline, not ego. When you've done the hard work in the dark, you don't need to scream in the light. Your results will do the talking. And the people around you will notice something different, not just in what you say, but in how you carry yourself. See, confidence isn't about thinking you'll never fail. It's about knowing you can handle failure. It's not about walking into a room believing you're better than everyone. It's walking in and not needing to compare yourself at all. You stop seeking approval because you're no longer operating from a place of lack. You've already filled your own cup through effort, integrity, and growth. There's a kind of peace that comes with this kind of confidence. You're no longer shaken by criticism because you've already faced your own doubts and come out stronger. You're no longer desperate to impress because you've already proven your worth to the only person who matters, you. And that's what people truly respond to. Not arrogance, not perfection, but quiet assurance. That presence, that stillness, that energy that says, I've done the work and I'm here to contribute, not to compete. Building this kind of confidence takes time. It takes patience. It takes you being willing to grow slowly, to read when others are partying, to practice when others are sleeping, to reflect when others are reacting. It requires discipline in private so that you can walk into any situation in public and not feel like a fraud, because you're not pretending, you're prepared. That's the power of confidence built in silence. And here's the truth. People might not notice your work right away. You might go unnoticed, uncelebrated, even misunderstood for a while. That's okay. You're not building your confidence for them. You're building it for you. So when the spotlight comes, and it will, you won't be scrambling to perform. You'll just be. Calm, clear, capable. Let others chase attention. Let others try to look the part. You focus on becoming it. Focus on stacking quiet victories. Focus on being solid when no one is watching. Because when the moment comes, when life tests you, when the opportunity appears, you won't need to act ready. You will be ready. And that's the kind of confidence that can't be faked. It can't be taken. It can't be shaken. Because it wasn't built for show. It was built in silence. Your response matters more than the situation. Life is unpredictable. You can plan, prepare, and organize every detail, but the truth is things will still go wrong. People will let you down. Opportunities will slip through your fingers. Circumstances will change without warning. That's reality. But here's the secret that separates the successful from the stuck. It's never the event that defines your future. It's your response to the event. The most powerful thing you control is not what happens to you, but how you choose to respond when it does. You can't control people. You can't control timing. You can't control every variable in life. But you can control your mindset. You can control your attitude. You can control your discipline. That's what gives you power in the face of problems, because while others waste time blaming, complaining, or collapsing, the person who understands the power of response is already looking for solutions, already adjusting, already learning. They don't get lost in the chaos, they lead through it. When adversity strikes, most people react emotionally. They get angry, frustrated, bitter, or discouraged. And while those emotions are natural, living in them is destructive. When your emotions lead your decisions, your outcomes suffer. You say things you regret. You make impulsive choices. You abandon plans that were actually working. But when you learn to pause, to process, and to respond with intention instead of emotion, you regain your clarity. You move forward with purpose, not panic. Response is everything. Two people can go through the same situation and come out with completely different lives. Not because of what happened, but because of how they handled it. One person sees failure as final, the other sees it as feedback. One person uses hardship as an excuse, the other uses it as a reason to rise. That's the difference. It's not talent, it's not luck, it's not background. It's the ability to stay grounded when the ground shifts beneath you. Every challenge is an opportunity to practice control. You get to decide what story you attach to the setback. You get to decide whether the obstacle becomes your excuse or your origin story. And that decision begins in your mind. You can either feed the fear or you can fuel your growth. But you can't do both. That's why your internal response system is the most important asset you'll ever develop. It's not about pretending everything is fine. It's not about being emotionless or pretending to be above struggle. It's about choosing your next move with wisdom. Maybe things didn't go your way. Maybe someone hurt you. Maybe the door closed that you were sure would open. Fine. Feel it. Acknowledge it. But then ask yourself, now what? That question shifts your perspective from victim to creator, from stuck to strategic, from reactive to responsive. Every time you respond with patience instead of panic, discipline instead of impulse, and clarity instead of chaos, you build inner strength. You reinforce the message that you are in charge of your life, no matter what comes your way. That doesn't mean you won't feel pain. It doesn't mean you won't face setbacks. It just means you've made a decision not to give them more power than they deserve. And here's something important. Your response is your responsibility. Nobody can choose it for you. You can't blame your past, your parents, or your environment forever. At some point, you have to stand up and say, this is my life, and I get to decide how I respond to it. That's maturity. That's ownership. That's where transformation begins. In the end, it's not the situation that determines your future. It's what you do after the situation that shapes your destiny. Respond with strength. Respond with wisdom. Respond with vision. Because the person who masters their response masters their direction. And in a world full of chaos, uncertainty, and noise, the ability to stay calm, clear, and in control will make you unstoppable. You can't always control what happens, but you can always control who you become because of it. Choose to respond like the person you're becoming, not the person you've been. That choice changes everything. Emotional control is your power. In a world that constantly throws challenges, pressure, and unpredictable situations at you, your ability to stay composed, focused, and in control of your emotions is what separates strength from struggle. Life is not about avoiding difficult moments. It's about being able to navigate them without losing yourself. And to do that, you need emotional discipline. You need to be able to feel deeply without letting your feelings dictate your decisions. Because if you don't control your emotions will control you. Most people live in reaction mode. Something goes wrong, they explode. Someone disrespects them, they retaliate. They hear bad news, they spiral. They feel doubt, they quit. That's how most people operate. And that's exactly why most people never reach their full potential. You can't build something meaningful, whether it's a business, a relationship, or a legacy, while being emotionally unpredictable. You have to learn how to lead yourself first. That begins with mastering your emotions. Now, let's be clear. Emotional control doesn't mean suppressing your feelings. Doesn't mean acting like you're made of steel or pretending that pain doesn't touch you. That's not strength. That's denial. True emotional control is about acknowledging how you feel, then deciding how to respond rather than reacting impulsively. It's about recognizing that your feelings are real, but they don't always tell the full truth. Emotions are signals, not commands. They can inform your choices, but they shouldn't make your choices for you. When you learn to sit with your emotions without being consumed by them, you gain power. You gain space between stimulus and response. That space is where all your growth lives. It's where you can breathe, think, and choose wisely. Without that space, every time you stay calm in a storm, every time you choose grace over anger, every time you respond instead of react, you're telling the world, and more importantly yourself, that you're in charge. That no matter how chaotic things get outside, you're stable on the inside. That's powerful. That's the kind of emotional presence that makes people trust you, follow you, and respect you. This is especially important when the stakes are high. In moments of pressure, your emotions will try to hijack you. Fear will whisper worst-case scenarios. Anger will push you to say things you'll regret. Doubt will try to shrink your confidence. But in those moments, you need to be the calmest person in the room, not because everything's easy, but because you've trained yourself to rise above the noise. Emotional control isn't natural for most, it's trained. And the best training ground is life itself. Every difficult moment you face is a chance to build that muscle. When someone says something offensive and you pause instead of snapping back, that's training. When fear creeps in and you still take action, that's training. When life disappoints you and you choose to learn instead of complain, that's training. Slowly, consistently, you're teaching yourself how to lead from a higher level. And let's be honest, emotional control is a superpower in today's world. When everyone else is reactive, dramatic, or constantly overwhelmed, your steadiness becomes your advantage. It gives you clarity when others are confused. It gives you strength when others are falling apart. And it allows you to make decisions not based on temporary emotions, but on long-term vision. That's how leaders are made. That's how progress is sustained. That's how character is revealed. Your emotions are valid, but they are not always wise. So let them speak, but don't let them drive. Feel them, but don't feed them. Honor them, but don't obey them blindly. You have the power to choose how you show up, no matter what you feel. And the more you practice that, the more powerful you become, not because life gets easier, but because you get stronger. So the next time life challenges you, remember this: your emotional control is not about what's happening around you, it's about what's happening within you. And when you control what's within, you gain influence over what's around. That's real power. That's the kind of power no one can take from you. Strength isn't loud. It doesn't always look like someone standing on a stage shouting orders or showing off in front of a crowd. Real strength is often invisible. It lives in the quiet choices, the silent perseverance, the decisions you make when no one's watching. Strength is built in the background of your life. In the early mornings when you get up even though you don't feel like it. In the late nights when you choose to keep going instead of giving up. It's the quiet refusal to quit. The invisible courage to keep believing in yourself even when you've got every reason to walk away. People often mistake volume for strength. They assume the loudest person in the room must be the most confident. But true strength doesn't need to announce itself. It doesn't demand attention. It doesn't have to prove anything to anyone. True strength is. It's steady, it's consistent, it's present. It's the person who keeps showing up, the one who doesn't break under pressure, the one who carries their weight, handles their responsibilities, and pushes forward regardless of how hard it gets. You see, it's easy to appear strong when life is going your way, when things are smooth, and when the money's coming in, when everyone's cheering you on. That doesn't take strength. But when it all falls apart, when you're alone, when the plan fails, when you're filled with doubt and fear, and no one's clapping for you, that's when real strength reveals itself. It's in those moments when everything inside you is telling you to stop, but something stronger says, keep going. Strength is when you choose discipline over comfort, when you say no to what's easy because you're committed to what's right. It's in the unseen hours when you're practicing, preparing, improving quietly while others are distracted. Strength is not built in a crowd, it's built in solitude. And that solitude doesn't make you weaker, it makes you deeper. It gives you a foundation that can't be shaken when storms come, because they will come. Strength isn't about never breaking down. It's about learning how to bend without snapping. Life will hit you hard sometimes. It'll test your patience, your resilience, your resolve. And when it does, strength is what keeps you from giving in. It's the part of you that remembers your purpose when your emotions are screaming in pain. It's what brings you back to your feet when you've been knocked flat. You don't have to be loud to be strong. You don't have to make noise to prove your worth. Some of the strongest people you'll ever meet are the ones who carry unimaginable burdens with grace, who smile through the struggle, who give when they have little, who speak peace into chaos, Not because they've never faced fear, but because they've faced it. Don't underestimate your quiet victories. Don't diminish the strength it takes to hold your ground when the world pushes against you. There's strength in restraint, strength in patience, strength in consistency. You don't need everyone to see it, you just need to know it's there. Sometimes the strongest thing you can do is keep going when no one applauds. Keep believing when no one understands. Keep building when nothing seems to be working. That quiet determination, that inner fire that won't go out, that's your real strength. And it will carry you further than any loud display ever could. So if you've been quietly working, quietly healing, quietly growing, keep going. You're doing more than you think. You don't have to broadcast your journey. Just keep moving, keep showing up. Because eventually, that quiet strength will become impossible to ignore. Not because you demanded attention, but because your results, your resilience, and your peace will speak louder than words ever could. Strength isn't loud. It doesn't always show up in bold colors or loud voices. It shows up in your consistency, in your integrity, in your commitment to becoming the best version of yourself, regardless of who notices. And when you live from that place, you don't need the world's validation, because you've already proven to yourself that you're stronger than anything that tried to break you.